Well, the election is over and the dust is almost settled, and President Trump is on his way back to the White House. Congratulations, President Trump, on a hard-earned victory. I say mostly settled because there's a lot that can happen between now and Inauguration Day, and there's a lot of Trump derangement syndrome out there. I've been watching these TikTok meltdown videos. These people are insane. They're not going to just give up that easy. There's a lot that can happen between now and Inauguration Day. So the next couple of months are going to be very interesting. But there are things that are taking place now, right, with this change of administration and a whole change of attitude, because it looks like Trump is heading back to Washington on a mission. And the mission is, it's almost like a wrecking crew. He's assembling a wrecking crew, and he's going into D.C., and it appears to me that the mission is to cut that place back down to size, to return it to the boundaries, the constitutional boundaries, the limited government that it was originally intended to be, the limited government that we thrived under when we were, America, right? The government has become, the federal government has become a monster, a huge bureaucratic mess, a swamp, where it's armies of bureaucrats, people making rules for other people who make rules to make rules for people that make rules, and all of them have their fingers in our pots. It looks to me like the mission now is to cut it all down to size. And there are certain things that affect us directly as car people that I want to talk about. And these are good, positive things. So there's economic stuff too. And like I've said before on this channel, you got to pay attention to economics, because as car people, we need, basically expendable cash to do the stuff that we do. But I don't want to get too much. I won't get into the economy into it really now. I'll save that for a different video. Let's just talk about the things that directly affect the world of cars, okay? Directly affect us. So the first seems a little unrelated, but it's related on a lot of different levels. And that's President Trump has used the phrase drill, baby, drill for the last several years. And he's referring to using our own oil, drilling on property that we own, land that we own, and shipping it over our land. As on the surface, yes, of course, it's a good thing. If you have the oil, right, why not be energy independent? And we can be energy independent. There are global financial interests that don't want that. But there's another aspect to this too, and this is really important. You feel inflation. So you go to the store, you go to the parts store, you go to the supermarket, right? You order something, and it's costing more. Everything's costing more. Forget about the official government inflation numbers. That's pure fantasy. You know that it's not real. They make these things up. You feel the pinch every time you purchase something. So you buy a part, okay, and it costs 10% more, 20% more than it did the last time you bought it. The part isn't worth that much more. You're not getting that much more value. In fact, a lot of times you're getting less value or less of a product, right? Or shrinkflation. But it costs more. Well, it's not the price, it's not the cost of or the value of the item going up. It's the value of the currency you're using to buy it with going down. It's more dollars chasing fewer goods. That is what inflation is. Well, you feel it on a personal level when you go to the store, but countries who deal with us and sell us things like oil deal with it on a national basis, right? So they feel the inflation too. The petrodollar is on its last legs. Countries have been settling oil contracts in currencies other than the dollar now for the last, year or two. And it's going to accelerate. And it almost appears to me that some of these countries are kind of giving us a grace period before they drop the hammer. There are things that need to be untangled, right? Monetary relationships that need to be untangled. And that's kind of what's in the process of happening right now. That whole drill, baby, drill thing is more than just the desire to be energy independent. Given the state of the petrodollar and the global macroeconomy, the only way we can even think of having a viable future as far as energy cost and availability is if we supply our own, and that has to start now. So now he's in there, and all of the land that can be accessed reasonably to procure oil. All of the paths, pipelines, and whatnot across our own land to ship the oil are all going to be reinstated and pushed forward. This is a good thing. Hopefully he refills the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But that's important, and I know that that's one of the first things, one of the priorities of the administration. Now, more directly having to do with cars is the fact that Trump has said that first day in office, the EV mandates are done. Okay, this is huge. This is huge. This is going to affect the whole world of cars. You have to keep this in mind now, right? Because of the EV mandates and the hoops that the manufacturers have to jump through in order to achieve these goals, which are unrealistically short. It's added cost and complexity to every aspect of the automotive business. So even though you're buying a gasoline car, you're paying extra for it because of the money that the companies have to invest, the billions and billions of dollars have to invest in their EV infrastructure, research and development, and plants, and all of these things, right? Well, with the EV mandates out of the way, it frees the companies up to actually build cars, build things that people want. Now, I'm not saying that nobody wants electric cars. I support people having electric cars. It should be their choice. The free market should provide electric cars to those who can legitimately use them, who it fits their lifestyle and it fits their environment. They should have electric cars. But the public at large should not have to pay the tax in all different forms to subsidize this. And the companies shouldn't be kneecapped in order to achieve these mandates. So the AV mandates are done, right? How do you know that this is a good thing, like a really good thing? Think about this for a second. Elon Musk is now part of the Trump inner circle. Like him or not, right? Doesn't make any difference. Like him or not, he's part of the program now. Elon Musk stands to lose the most from the elimination of EV mandates. This is a guy who owns the largest electric car company in the world, Mr. Electric Car. This is Tesla, okay? He supports Trump's stance on the EV mandates. That's the guy with the most to lose. So you know that this is a good, positive step, a good step in the right direction. Yes, they'll still be available, and people who choose to drive EVs should have the best technology available to them, and they should have a charging infrastructure available to them. All of that is good, but it's the level should be determined by the free market, not by government mandate. So that's all good. The EPA is on the chopping block. Now, on the surface, this seems like a bad idea, okay? Everybody wants clean air. Everybody wants clean water, right? I think we can universally agree on this. We want a relatively clean environment. We don't want companies dumping stuff in fields and in lakes. Do you remember in Ohio that river caught on fire? The EPA, when the EPA came into existence, right, it filled a very crucial role. I had a limited role, okay, but it filled a very crucial role. Industrial pollution was out of control, okay? Smog was killing cities. Los Angeles, the smog was insane, right? When the EPA came into existence, it had a job, and that was to clean these things up. Basic emission standards for vehicles, basic emission standards for industry. Nobody can argue with any of that. I remember when I was a kid, when the EPA first came around, we had these things called Earth Days. It was like 1971, 1972. I was like 10 years old. And this was like an EPA initiative where, the schools would go out on field trips to sections of woods and whatnot. And we would clean up and we'd mow and we'd pick up litter and clean off graffiti. This was a good thing. This was the type of stuff that the EPA was fostering, the environmental movement was fostering. Nobody can argue with that. That's all really good stuff. But since then, it has gone completely out of control. And it interferes in every aspect of business, of manufacturing, commerce. It's being cut down to size. Now, they talk about the EPA being eliminated. I don't think that it's going to be eliminated. I think it's going to be reduced drastically to its original boundaries with its original intentions. This is a good thing. What is that? Some of the things, what does this mean? DEF, we can get back to actually building real diesels that will last and be reliable and not eat you out of house and home with this sensor and that thing and that fluid. No, we can now go back to having real diesels. Corporate average fuel economy standards. Again, see, it was another good idea. When that came into play in the early 1970s, it was needed, okay? There was no regard given to the efficiency, the average efficiency of the fleet of cars that were being manufactured in this country and sold in this country. So a basic set of standards was a good thing. I'm not going to argue with that. But again, something that's run completely amok, gone completely off the rails, and has created a nightmarish Frankenstein environment for the manufacturers in terms of providing the types of vehicles that the average person wants. The reason why we have giant trucks is because giant, crazy, oversized trucks is because of corporate average fuel economy standards and the weird, crazy, perverse way that they classify things. This is why we can't have, light, efficient, fun, practical, like mini trucks and stuff like that, what we have in the old days, because of the way the corporate average fuel economy standards are set, right? Well, that's done, right? So now the free market wants light, fun, affordable things like mini trucks and cars and whatnot. You think about it, right? You go back to the 1970s, early 1980s, you could buy cars, trucks, that would get 25 miles in a gallon, 30 miles in a gallon. Regularly, it wasn't a big deal. 50 years of mechanical evolution, and that's all we still get, right? Take hybrids out of the equation, and just that's the best you can ask for. Corporate average fuel economy in real world terms has not really improved. Same thing with emission standards, right? The emission standards have gone completely off the rails. It's almost as if they want the air that comes out of an engine to be cleaner than the air that went into it. And in some cases, that's actually what you end up with. Again, this is like destructive, counterproductive legislation. The EPA needs to be cut down to size. That whole area, and National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, same thing. These are necessary agencies with good ideals. So it's just a good idea, right? But they've gone too far because bureaucracy, right? It's like people making rules that people make and it just goes on and on and on. It never stops. Once a bureaucracy gets started, they can't just pick a set of rules. Okay, well, here, this is what's going to be. And then just, okay, well, we're done here. We figured it all out, right? Let's go work at Waffle House or something. No, they have to keep their jobs. And so they have to come up with new standards for new things and inform new committees and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's how things run off the rails. It looks like President Trump and company are going to return things to a more reasonable, manageable, constitutionally correct as far as the scope and the scale of the government. It looks like that's a major part of the mission. There are other things in play too, aside from cars. But again, see, like this affects all of us. He's got RFK Jr. in there, and RFK Jr. His thing now is make America healthy again. He's going after the FDA. You go into the supermarket and you buy all of these pre-prepared foods that are, the ingredients in there, this stuff is poison. It's killing us, right? Same thing with the pharmaceutical companies, right? RFK is going in there to chop all of that down to size. Very interesting stuff economically. I won't get into that now. But I'm very surprised to see Ron Paul's name pop up all of a sudden. Oh boy, there's so much to this. If you're not familiar with Ron Paul, he was a Libertarian presidential candidate back in 2008. He's probably one of the most stand-up individuals that's ever filled a public office. The guy's he's like the salt of the earth. And back in 2008, when he was running, I had a coffee house, and my coffee house was actually the local campaign headquarters for Ron Paul. Right? We handed out flyers and signs and did the foot teams and all this other stuff. But we really supported Ron Paul. His one of the thing that got me was his whole end the Fed deal. Okay, do it, the Federal Reserve, get back to a hard money policy. Very interesting things, like he all of a sudden pops back into the picture, along with some statements or some things that President Trump alluded to during the Joe Rogan broadcast. I'm not going to get into that now. I think we have some good things coming our way, but there's going to be a lot of difficult hurdles economically that we're going to have to cross before we really get there. But I just wanted to touch on the things that affect us directly as car people, some of the legislation and some of the rules and whatnot that are going to be eliminated, some of the restructuring. This is good stuff. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.